Aussie with a Friday free-for-all. I think what we've decided, Aussie, is that like every crypto day, we used to say it's like a week. I think it's more like a month worth of news. And okay, gotcha. Yeah, Jarrett's correcting us. We're supposed to go at 9:45. My bad. Calendar
Yeah.
needs to be updated. So if you expected us at 9:45, we're here now. So forgive us. But yeah, there's like so much stinking news, and you just did a link dump. But I think there's like three things that are at least top of mind for me that I'd love to talk more about. But yes, folks, welcome. Jarrett's not with us this morning. Man needs to recharge, and that's why we have multiple hosts. You need to recharge, Aussie. When was the last time you got like a full night's sleep?
I went to bed at 11 o'clock last night and woke up at 7. So I got I got 8 hours last night. It was all
Oh,
right.
you woke up at 7?
Yeah.
Man, okay. Someday I just need to like NyQuil, like the whole thing, and just like crash because I can't sleep in past 3:30 or 4, and
Oh, God.
that doesn't make me the life of the party. I might have my biceps, but not my sleep.
See, I can
Good.
sleep.
Good for. Well, I take naps. That's my thing. That's my thing. So talk to us. So Circle just put out this article. And this article basically is saying that the US is going to default on its debt. It believes that. So, like, A, what do they mean? And B, what are the implications for what they're holding, in your opinion?
Well, so what's the big thing is Circle is worried about the US not raising the debt ceiling in time. So
How often do we just let it miss the date for that?
I think it's happened once or twice, but only by a few days. Usually, it's not,
Oh,
or usually, if it does happen, it usually gets down to the last few hours.
the new regime. Tristan, what do you mean? You got to unpack that, man. Do you know what he means by that?
No, I
Okay.
I don't I don't know. Maybe we're the ruling too because Jared's
Because
gone.
Jarrett's not here. Maybe. But keep going with this. So the X date is the date at which. Oh.
Oh, that is a very interesting conversation because there has been a bunch of news about CBDCs in the last.
But Tristan's correlating the two. So what? We default on our debt and move to a CBDC, and that makes what easy? Like, what's the correlation in your opinion,
I
Aussie?
don't see anything that would unless the U.S. creates a new dollar and essentially says the dollar this just like a crypto project, this token that we created isn't worth anything anymore. You've got to convert to this
It's
token
like
that's worth
Terra Luna and
something.
Terra Classic. It's just like, let's just invent a parallel coin. So there's the US dollar that's depegging and de-dollarizing. And then they're like, let's just come up with the USDD, the US dollar. And we'll go with that. No, the new regime comment was that Jared just wasn't here. But yeah, they could just roll out their CBDC and be like, you know what? But the CBDC is actually worth something. And I don't know against what? Against the
It's
US
back.
dollar.
It's backed by Bitcoin.
Maybe
It,
they're gonna peg it to like the BRICS dollar or something.
it's pegged. It's pegged to one Satoshi.
Oh my God. Well, they probably should, and that would do wonders. So, but okay. So, what does this mean about Treasury bonds, though? Is Circle a big buyer of
Yes.
Treasuries?
So US Tether and Circle, any stable
Tether.
coin would usually hold at least some of their reserves in US treasuries. It's how they make a bunch of money because they basically back their stablecoin with US dollars, but they buy treasuries which generate them yield, which make the company money.
I like this one. Pegged to the art. So if the U.S. did their own stable coin, which should be the dollar, but that's a self-referencing loop if you know anything about
Yeah.
Microsoft Excel, and so we can't self-reference. So pegged to the arbitrary value of all of our military equipment because that's real value, and it's also a stabilizing force in the globe in theory. So like the value of all of our military equipment does probably actually amount to the global GDP because we keep the world safe. Just ask one of our congressmen or congresswomen. I don't buy that wholesale. Please do not clip that and say this is what Grant believes. That's actually total sarcasm.
I mean, CDO right here. You've given me the clip. You've given me the clip, and now I can go.
Grant's our chief degen officer, and here's his clip. Jared says, even with my low energy this morning, I still have more energy than the non-proof of work government CBDC. No joke. I don't even know if they have the brains in the, like, I do wonder. They have to have the brains. I'm sorry. There has to be someone smart within the government who is managing their CBDC. We can't just assume they're doing this with an old regime. So, like, I want to know this. Who's the crypto degen who's been lurking crypto Twitter, knows it well enough to have sold a government contract to be consulting on FedNow and CBDC? Who is consulting the government on this stuff?
Who knows? But it's happening across the world because the EU is working on their CBDC, and I shared with you guys this week, and Jared posted on Twitter that Canada, the Bank of Canada, is doing consultations on their own CBDC.
And this is Canada's central bank?
Yeah, it's our central bank. So they've obviously got a bunch of degens who have become smart enough that,
Yeah.
hey, I can make a bunch of money going on government contracts.
Oh my God. Tristan, I know this. Tristan definitely wants us to talk about the shadow government, and Inside Job has an episode about it. Oh, Inside Job has an episode about it. But about crypto, it can't touch on, like, I mean, we know, like, it's nuanced enough for the average person to activate a project, and that gives it legs. And it takes a lot. It takes liquidity. It takes a good marketing team. It takes onboarding. And so when you think about all of these roles, like, we have got to be able to deploy the minions on LinkedIn and do our research and figure out it's highly probable that this person, this group, this company is advising the government. Do you think it's actually institutions that, like, say, Visa, MasterCard, big banks that have actually been nurturing their own crypto departments, that, you know, they have enough institutional signaling, virtue signaling as an institution to the government? Or do you actually think there's degens involved?
There's gotta be one degen somewhere in that group.
Come on, talking to Biden in emojis like, hey, bruh.
Honestly.
When Lambo for Congress.
Exactly. Like, you know why the U.S. government's selling their Silk Road Bitcoin? It's because some degen is like, I want those Satoshis.
Really? Oh,
Drop the price of Bitcoin so I can get more Satoshis.
Because
That's
the FBI is gonna, like, do their auction off Silk Road collected funds. Let's drive it down to sub 25. And that is newsworthy. It didn't make our top 3 list even today because, as Jarrett is always want to say, like, 10% moves is kind of normal for crypto, but we've had like an 8% move this week, and we could talk about, you know, Bitcoin at 26, but that's funny. Like, yeah, maybe there's some insider. And honestly, this level of insider work within Congress for representation, any of our representatives, is so much easier than election shenanigans or like global political deals. Like, let's just manipulate crypto markets. I actually think crypto markets are easier to manipulate across the board, writ large, and I mean Bitcoin, I mean Ethereum, than the stock market, than TradFi.
Well, the liquidity is just so much lower on crypto market, and so
we've normalized that, right?
Yeah,
we've normalized that. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just so much easier to manipulate because you don't need nearly as much money to manipulate the low volume and low liquidity that most crypto has. And so you can even, I mean, running some of the trading bots that I run, even with like $10,000 with 5 or 10x leverage, you can, on some cryptos, even like in the top 10, top 20, you can run into liquidity issues. So,
Yeah. I mean, because you're running 5x and 10x. I mean, now let's compare that so that people understand what this means. If you have 10K and you do a 5x leverage, you're basically trading with 50K. But if it moves against you, you're on the hook for the 50.
well, you if it moves any more than negative $10,000, unless you have
Yes.
more than $10,000 in the account, which
Yeah.
is often how we run things, then you would get liquidated. They would take your whole 10K. You're only on
Yeah.
the hook for the 10K, essentially, unless you
Oh,
use different kinds of leverage,
but
like
what
different
that
kinds of margin.
but what that means is on a 50K 5x leverage, if your 50K drops to 40K, you get liquidated and your position is exited.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, but let's compare this to TradFi. Can you do a 5x 10x trade in TradFi?
I know someone that did 800x on gold.
Stop it.
This guy is fucking ridiculous.
With options, like options trading you can obviously.
No, no, no. Like trading.
Really? Okay, that's Sketchville to me. Like that's nuts.
There's only certain platforms that you can do it on, and this guy's got a fairly large account. Like we're talking a
Okay, so
couple
he's got
million.
reserves, so they see his reserves, and he might get liquidated all the time. That's nuts. So, real quick, Tristan says, I got some alpha on someone who is working on some brick stuff, but nothing in the allied nations. So, that's a conversation we need to take offline because I would love to hear this person, and I'm sure that they go pretty shadow. They don't want to talk about much, but I'd still like to learn from them. Jarrett jumps in. Cian says, while 10% ups and downs daily on par for the course of Bitcoin, as an example, if you have a 10% gain or dip day after day for more than 3 or 4 days, there's something significant. What's your thought, Aussie?
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the market's been sliding. He highlights it perfectly. The market's. This is actually the most movement that we've seen in the market in a month and a half.
Yeah, it's been static. Yeah, it's like everyone's rounding up. They're doing their headline rounding. Like
It's too
Bitcoin
much.
drops to lowest in 2 months, and it's like, well, yeah, but
But Bitcoin's been a stable coin essentially for a month and a half.
yeah, 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 yeah,
More or less, yes. You might have some daily, like it's up $1,000 for a couple hours and then it's back down, like we had on CPI day. But
yeah,
more or less, it's been a stable coin for the last month and a half. And so this is like, whoa,
yeah.
Bitcoin's moving again, and yes, it's sliding. I mean, 25.2, I think is not out of the question. I think we need to
No,
we
I
need to
agree with
retest
that.
the support.
Well, and so I had this question. Everyone, when we get into these market moves, like aside from when it's flat, like it has been the last month and a half, when we get into these market moves, you start to see people throwing out headline after headline of Bitcoin tests new support, Bitcoin tests new support. And this is what I ask people. Why are we calling this a support line?
It has to do with technical indicators or technical analysis,
Yes.
and it has to do with different things. It can People can call support based off of Fibonacci retracement, which is a technical analysis indicator. They can use it based off volume.
Yeah.
They can use it um, on moving averages. So there's depending on different indicators, there are different support lines, and
But
so
support feels like a misnomer to a newbie who steps in. A newbie steps in and they hear support and they think there's strength there. But that's not what the word means.
yes, it kind of does. It can suggest, usually, especially if quote unquote support from multiple indicators line up around a certain price point, then there's a higher likelihood that either it stops dropping at that point, or it's more likely to at least get a bounce from that point, because there's been heavy buying pressure, whole bunch of reasons that would indicate that area is significantly important and that people are likely to potentially have buy orders there.
Interesting. So real quick, Tristan blows my mind here and says we have a guy who regularly 1000x leverage on fuel trades. I got to know what sort of reserves that guy has to have in his account to do that. But to me, that's bonkers unless he's an insider. And as an insider, he might have some information that all he needs to do is get a little blip. Jarrett says 800x, or going back to Tristan's previous comment just now, 1000x. How does that even work? If gold goes down a 100,000, a 10,000th of a percent, you'd be wrecked. No. What does he mean by this?
Because
And is it right or wrong?
I mean, it's right to a certain extent because you could, but depends how much you've got in your account. So if you've got more than like if you put all of your account in that trade, then yes. If it moves even down that much, then it then you could be wrecked. But if you're carrying, like if you're buying, let's say $100 at 800x, but
Yeah.
you've got $100,000 in your account, you won't get wrecked by that move.
Okay, so Jarrett's assuming that if that's your full amount, you'd get liquidated. So that's what wrecked means. But it's not abnormal for gold to move, a tenth of a point, let alone a 10,000th of a point. But if you've got $100,000 on those positions and they start moving the right way, and a lot of these traders have like hedge positions too. They've got butterfly positions. They've got negative positions. So they're kind of playing both straddles and stuff like that.
My guy doesn't even usually use hedges, but he is so good at entries.
He's just out here raw dogging entries. What
This guy is like, this guy had 50,000 going into the pandemic.
Wow.
He predicted that the market was going to crash in 2020, made a ton of money there, predicted the market was going to a Bitcoin and the market was going to bounce at the bottom when it bottomed. Slowly built up a position at that bottom, longed Bitcoin to 50. He started DCAing out at 55 and started slowly building a short position at 55 on Bitcoin. And then shorted Bitcoin all the way to 30.
Wow.
He's now sitting on several $1 million.
Yeah, I bet. Wow.
And he doesn't even actually know exactly how much he has, because he's got it. Sometimes he's got a whole bunch of it hidden in different MetaMasks that he currently does not exactly remember that he stored money in that MetaMask.
Wow. Check this out, Tristan. It's a lot easier when you don't have insider trading laws. So this is a reference to Tristan's earlier point where this guy has 1000x leverage on fuel trades. And then Jarrett's like, come on, how does that even work? Like the margin to get liquidated is razor thin, but I guess that the margin to have gains is smaller. And Tristan's like, no, none of this matters because you have insider information and you're only making bets. And you know what the house is playing. So you know like who's raising rates. So I want to make this guy my best friend. And just slip in there for a trade or two. That's hilarious. And then Tristan says, Aussie, are you giving us the alpha on your newly programmed trading AI? Is this your guy, the secret guy behind your trading
Actually,
AI?
no, this guy is not my guy behind the trading AI. He is just he's a guy that I've had the chance to run into and interact with. Really, really nice guy. Really, really smart guy too.
So I had a healthy conversation with the My Crypto Advisor gentleman, and not a healthy conversation. That makes it sound like it was a debate. He made a post about valuing the market and valuations, and I 100% agreed. And obviously, anytime we mention some form of technical analysis, TA trading, our comments start to go up, and thankfully Jarrett's there hanging out in his house, nursing his flu-like symptoms to recover so he can chat with us a little bit. Tristan's commenting, but regardless of who it is, people tend to jump in because they feel like there's more legitimacy to TA trading. And my comment was simply, we're all fooling ourselves. TA trading is just us trying to quantify our animal instincts, basically our reactionary nature. There is nothing value-driven truly about markets. Oh, Austin says, "Hey, want to meet that guy, Aussie? Make a connect. Make a connect. They want to talk." Um, so my question to you is this: is there any true intrinsic value in markets, in your opinion?
Intrinsic value in markets, no. Do I think technical analysis has value? Yes.
Where does it get its merit if not intrinsic value?
It's on patterns. It like there's pattern. It's patterns, history, and predictions. So algorithms, like you can you can actually
Lassie, let's run a psyop using new TA methods on a short. First off, you just got to mention psyop, and I'm in. Like let's do that thing. And Tristan, you might appreciate this. One of my favorite books I've referenced. Hang on, let me grab from the top shelf. Hang on, because it's a top shelf reference. Here we go. I'm 100%. I love the percentage of people in our space that are either like conspiracy theorists or psyop people, but the true believer thoughts on the nature of mass movements. And this is my playbook for like part of my playbook for what's going to happen with our training community, our personal development founder community that we're launching, and that will be under Spark Sites. We're not doing that with Not Crypto Bros unless the bros open the doors. Let's roll. But Tristan says hedging. Where are we at? Hedging the position, of course, legally. For the record, if anyone checks back.
everything that's been done is 100% above board.
Above 100% above. Tristan speaks exclusively to Grant's Sith side CTO. You're not lying. I mean, come on, guys. The older I get, the more shortcuts just look appealing. Isn't that how we get sucked into Palpatine Sith side? Definitely. But anyways, back to this conversation about TA and patterns. Like, so when you have a real crap month with the trading bots, your trading bots pull off of some technical analysis. I won't talk about secret sauce, but it dives into, let's just make something up, an RSI indicator or a moving average, and you've just programmed this thing that if in this case, then do that, right?
Essentially, yeah.
And it's not willy-nilly like, if it rains in Kansas, the crop for barley next year will be X. So you don't get into that mess. It's literally just TA stuff.
It's
right?
just TA.
Okay. And so from that regard, when you have a crap month, when TA drops the ball, why? If it's that good of a science, why?
Because TA is influenced by a lot of things, and one of the big things that can influence TA has to do with how much something's moved. So price movement and volume.
Interesting.
So if something's really, really stable, but it's not normally really, really stable, that can kind of mess with indicators. Because a movement like on the RSI that would normally maybe like you're at 30 and usually a move up from 30 to 50 is like a 1% move, but you're really stable. And so now that's only a 0.2% move because of reasons, because volume's low, because the market is the market's stuck in a position, a holding position for different reasons. That can really screw up TA because if it's not kind of following its traditional behavior.
Gotcha. But why don't we simply consider then that well, let me ask it this way. Is it well understood amongst technical traders that as much as we're trying to bring legitimacy to this thing, even the indicators themselves can run away with, the passions of the market. People just experiencing FOMO and buying in, and I mean,
oh, absolutely. There are times like January when it ran like crazy. We were lucky. our bots, based because of certain factors that we have programmed into them, didn't get screwed up, but didn't majorly get screwed up. They actually benefited quite a bit from the nice run that we had in January, which was 100% not TA based.
Interesting.
However, they do get screwed up, like when the SEC comes out on a Sunday and says, "Hey, we're suing so and so."
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Like,
Because then people are like, well, it's just going to defy the markets. The markets are going to tank, and your RSI could be saying, hey, no, we're underbought,
yeah,
and
but we're still gonna keep dropping.
got
Like,
it. Interesting.
so, like, we know that there are times when, you know what, the TA isn't gonna matter.
Yeah.
Market news is gonna drive the market.
Everything. Yeah.
Is gonna drive it.
Okay. So
Which
eyes
is
wide
why
open. So
we don't
most
do meme coins. Like, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do TA on meme coins. I've seen people that have done TA on Pepe, and like there's some possibility of doing TA on meme coins to a certain extent to potentially determine a good spot to potentially buy Pepe. But that I would never run an algorithm to try and do that because it's too difficult.
And the case in point here that Jarrett's making, TA gets broken a lot by crypto-ish, aka Elon changing Dogecoin on Twitter. First off, hence the PSYOP. Yes. And the PSYOPs work very well when the public believes it's looking at something that's based on intrinsic value, which to me, the average retail trader is not educated enough to say, well, these indicators are helpful, but they're not gospel. And ultimately, being good at predicting how human nature will respond to a headline is more valuable. And you can look at histories. You can look at data to see, well, the public generally responds like X to these sorts of headlines. But now we're talking to some serious
that's a serious amount of algorithm stuff. We have figured out how to feed some stuff like that into an algorithm on how we tell our potential algorithm to behave. So, hey, this is market sentiment right now, and we've managed to program it through certain indicators, but based off of this kind of information, and say, hey, market is feeling this way, so don't do, even if it goes in this direction, don't do this particular move. Like,
I want. Oh, go ahead.
Like when we know the market's incredibly bearish, we might tell the bots, even if it gets underbought, don't take a long. For example, on RSI, because we know the trend is down because of such and such news. Don't take a long if it's underbought.
Now, people would say in that instance that that's the human error, that you think you're smarter, and that's interesting. Now, I do want to jump on something real quick about MiLady's here, but I just want to show some love here. Tristan says this is the actual origin of Pepe. So if you are watching on, I believe, LinkedIn, you can grab this link from Tristan. Tristan, I commit to watching this later. I really appreciate you sending that. I saw you text it to me as well. I do want to check that out. I would love to know the actual origin. Maybe Pepe is its own PSYOP, and I think it's healthy to just assume everything now, my friends, is a PSYOP of some sort. But real quick, Jared says, let's look at MiLady here, because if Elon can change the logo to Dogecoin, it will drive Dogecoin. If Elon can say, hey, we're not going to take Bitcoin anymore, they're not going to take Bitcoin. And if Elon says, hey, we're going to just post this ridiculous meme. There is no meme, I love you. Now, this is a meme within a meme, because Elon knows people are always waiting for Elon to share the memes. And when he woke up, whatever day this was, and was feeling hinky at 11:52 a.m. and just said, there is no meme, I literally did not recognize this immediately, as I just saw it was a meme, and he said, I love you. However, to the meme lord, did you recognize this immediately? Did you know?
No, I did not. I saw it. I remember seeing it,
Yeah.
but
I remember seeing it. It came up in my feed. I did not think, because Elon's into gamer culture, manga culture. He's into so much stuff that I just figured this was, but I have seen this collection before. And when the news started hitting, the floor on this is now 4.25. The offers now, though, are already coming in significantly less against the floor because they know that this is a hype cycle and it's got to come down again. This is roughly the date, March 12th, March 5th. So somewhere in here, March 12th, it was trading basically at a floor of 1.25 ETH at a volume of 230 ETH. And since Elon did that post, they basically quintupled their floor, nearly quintupled their floor. Maybe call it 4x, maybe somewhere between
yeah.
4x and 5x. But their volume went from 200 ETH, their volume of trade, 230 ETH. The real story here is their volume went up. And for those who don't know, in crypto, creator fees are anywhere between 1, 5, sometimes 10%. I don't know what MiLady's are. We could just
We
look.
could literally scroll up. You could probably see
The creator fees,
creator fees 5%.
5%. So this company, so whatever 11 ETH volume was,
11,000 ETH.
sorry, 11,000 ETH in volume, and they get 5% of that, they suddenly have a war chest. Now, maybe the
They did just today. They've made 582.2 ETH
580,
at current price.
1,700 times 1,700.
1,700.
Yeah.
Okay, give me 2 seconds. I just screwed up my calculator.
Yeah.
I put in 1,900 before.
Sure.
They just made just shy of $1 million today.
On that day. And so to Jared's point, an NFT can just get pinged by an influencer and that group suddenly have $1 million more in the treasury, even if that number comes back to 1.25 ETH. And oftentimes it deflates a little even further when the hype cycle goes because people start dumping, trying to claim any rewards. They still have that treasury. They still have that money, and now they could build a future on that. And so TA gets
You could
broken up.
retire as that creator. You could not have, because that was one day. If you look at that,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
one day of volume.
Yeah.
If you look at the other days of volume, they didn't make $1 million on the other days, but probably across those last week, they've probably made somewhere between
10.
1.5 to $3 million.
Well, and I'm
Easily.
looking over here on the screen. In total volume, they've ever done 45,000 ETH, and 11,000 of that was yesterday. So a quarter of it. And so I don't know what MiLady's is doing under the hood. I don't know if they have a strong community. But the point is, I like how big Tristan thinks. Sub 10 million, hard to retire with today's conditions. Tristan, I don't know about your appetites, my brother.
Give me 4 million and I will retire right now. They would have made just shy of $3.825 million.
But I will admit here that we probably are speaking to relative brokies. Let's be real.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I
man.
could do, I would gladly take 10, but
Yeah,
you gave
yeah.
me 4 and
I'd be
I
all
would
right.
I would make do. I would make
Yeah.
do with 4 million.
Yeah, man. So last headline we're going to touch on real quick before we let everyone go. We just got a few minutes here. Um, uh, Boom, 76.5 total volume. Yes, 76.5 total volume. It's nuts. It's nuts. So real quick, and the fun fact is only 4% of them are listed, which shows a lot of owner confidence. There's over 3,300 owners and only 4% of them are listed. That's a lot of NFT owner confidence in their
Yeah.
future. But let's talk about this last piece real quick. You mentioned earlier that China has launched a national center for blockchain trading. Now, what does this mean for China, at least in blockchain? And then, therefore, what does it mean for the rest of the world?
Well, it looks like China is reopening to crypto. We started seeing signs a little bit in December. There was some discussions about potential reopening of the Chinese market to crypto. with increased volume on OKX, which seems to be one of the only exchanges that has access or ability to trade in China.
Okay.
And so they were starting to see increased volume on OKX. And now we've got this announcement that they're looking to train about 500,000 people in blockchain. So not just blockchain trading, but blockchain as a whole.
Wow.
And so
Wait. They and Russia for sure dropped pro crypto malware in Dallas. What is a pro crypto malware?
I do want to figure out what does that mean?
Like the one thought I have is maybe it's adware. Like what I see a lot in when a WordPress site gets hacked, it's very rarely for sensitive information. It's usually so that they can hijack the landing pages. And then you might visit like this website.com / and suddenly there's a new landing page called casino, or suddenly there's a new landing page called trade on OKX. And so maybe this malware is an adware of some kind, but I did not hear about this, Tristan. So any link or reference would be significantly helpful. So, but why didn't this bolster the price of Bitcoin or Ethereum? EMS system for farming as well as using Dallas's EM's system for farming as well as adware. Interesting. I'm gonna have to read up on this. I didn't know this happened. But Aussie, like, what are the implications? Is it open? Is it working? Are they developing?
They're working on it. They've announced it. They're going to be building, but they're still training people. And they haven't announced that it's really opened back up for retail traders. So it's kind of like they're looking at how they can make it available to people and looking at how the Chinese government can benefit from it. But it's not necessarily saying, oh, yes, we're like everybody can trade crypto now.
Gotcha. So they're still controlling it, but does this make the rest of the world hopeful, or is it scary, kind of like some people react negatively to hearing Russia's launched its own Bitcoin mining facility and the ruble and Bitcoin might both be official currencies at some point in Russia's future. And so a lot of like Westerners think, oh, well, does that mean America's going to shut down Bitcoin, or does that mean Russia's going to own the inscriptions on Bitcoin? Like, what are we talking about here? So there's good news, bad news. How are people reacting to this headline?
I think I don't think it's actually as widely known as it probably should be. I think it's kind of one of those pieces of news that is kind of sliding a bit under the radar. And I think I think the mixed reaction is true. We're seeing adoption on one side, but we're seeing adoption in China. And China and the US don't get along. And the US is taking an anti-crypto stance, especially lately, like we talked about on our last show. And so it's kind of it's a 50-50 bag. It's like, which is probably why it's not having a major impact.
Well, and we kind of have to see. Maybe people think, yay, pro-crypto news. And then they're like, these guys are CBDCs. They're overlords quite often of their society. Maybe this is just them trying to figure out how to hack crypto, how to market make with crypto. Basically, how to control things like they did with the Great Chinese Firewall and their internet. Yes, we have internet, but if you've ever searched the internet while in China, which I have, in Shanghai, it's a different internet, bros. Like, you can't get normal news. Tristan says real quick, are they tying the ability to use crypto into WeChat for use in y'all's opinions as this training develops? I don't know. That's good to know.
I think it could be a possibility. I think they've been exploring. They were working with Chainmaker, who's probably one of the only major crypto companies. There's about 50 of them in China at the moment, and they're working with one of Chainmaker, which is probably the biggest one, and it's the kind of home blockchain of China. So,
and for those who don't know, WeChat might sound like WhatsApp or any of these other chat services. It's owned by Tencent Holdings, which is like a Chinese conglomerate, very embedded with the Chinese state. So it's kind of like a state media conglomerate that kind of owns WeChat, for those who don't know. There's my screen. So real quick, I just wanted to bring a little bit of context, and then I think we're going to let everyone go for their day. Some quick context. What Tristan is talking about, and his article brought this up, is that the city of Dallas confirmed a ransomware attack, which is down 911 dispatch services. So it's an EMS systems. I saw the lowercase s, Tristan. I wasn't entirely sure, but yes. And so the Dallas Police Department website, when was this? As of May 4th, the police department website was even down. The computer-aided dispatch was down. So the ransomware attack was basically asking for Bitcoin payment or crypto payment. So I don't know if this is necessarily a pro-crypto malware attack, but it's definitely a ransomware attack. And the only shot any hackers have today in getting away is with crypto. That's their only chance. So definitely check that out. And Jarrett's already sending us our thumbnail for today's show. Jarrett. It's fantastic. I love it. Any parting thoughts, shout outs for us today, Aussie, as we kind of wrap up for the morning?
Oh, God.
What do you got?
Parting thoughts. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for Friday Free-For-All. It's very free-for-all, as you can see.
I feel like we have a net, and we're just trying to get all the little fishies that swam through the net between now and next Tuesday, like all the other stories, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, you saw my drop, my link drop, and I get that every day. So we could literally go through my link drop every day, and we'd have something to talk about. Except for weekends. I don't think we get link drops on weekends. So
no, gotcha. Okay. So shout out to our boy Jarrett, of course, who's at home just trying to recover but can't help himself but get involved in the comments. Shout out to Tristan, who thinks that $10 million is difficult to retire on. Stay in my life, bro, because I need big dreamers. Yeah. And Tristan says, yes, come here exclusively to derail, but you kept us on track for some reason, Tristan. He's like he's like an honorary member, like, you know, like the Muppets that have like the box seats of the old men who come in and get cantankerous. Like I picture Tristan doing that and just dropping seeds sometimes. So everyone, remember to follow us on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, share with a friend. Get involved in the comments. It does help drive our follower count. So if you're used to seeing us on LinkedIn, if you're used to seeing us in other places, do us a favor. We're trying to build up our YouTube audience a little bit. Invite, subscribe, or reshare a YouTube link onto your socials, and it would mean so much to us. And then, of course, visit us next Tuesday right here, wherever you get streaming. And other than that, thanks so much. Y'all have a great, great morning.